It's my chair is malfunctioning. No, I'm playing. It's not even an electrical chair. It's just a regular chair. Got you guys. Anyways, man, welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. So I did go ahead and go back to Wesley. So I got his round 9 game between him and Ray Robson. So it is a Webster University reunion going on because, as you guys know, they both went to Webster University. But anyways, man, like I said, this is round 9. All my people coming from the Philippines, I will say mabuhay hi to you. Let me see, Magandang umaga. It is super early morning over there, not quite 5 a.m. So I appreciate you guys very much. Let me see, Masaya Kong Makita Kang Muli, hello ulit. I appreciate you guys very much. Maraming salamat. But anyways, man, if you guys are ready to go, son, let's take a look and see what we got for this game, homie. So we got the move E4, best by test. We got E5. We got knight to F3. We got knight to C6. And we do have bishop to C4. And this is a much rarer played move. Usually you see bishop to B5. And then we can get into a Roy Lopez type situation. But we do see the move bishop to C4. Obviously trying to target that F7 square. We got knight to F6. And then we have the same idea we saw before, which is D3. You know, just making sure that we have a solid pawn chain and there's no knight taking E4 stuff. So we do see a bishop to C5. And we do have the Giuoco Pianissimo variation, also known as the very quiet game. But these, as you guys always see, these games are rarely quiet, homie. We do see knight to C3, and this is another rarer move. Almost always you see either castles or C3. So we're starting to get further and further away from like a known theory. So we will be having a novelty coming up at some point pretty soon. We got the move A6. We see castles by white. We got D6. We got the move A4, just, you know, creating some space for the bishop. Because as you guys probably are aware, B5 does want to come. We got the move H6, creating some lift, and we don't want any knight G5 stuff coming up. We do see bishop to E3, which might look a little bit strange to some of you because you're like, why am I just like gonna allow my pawn structure to be messed up? Well, you know, one of the goals of white is to actually push D4. So if we have a pawn here like so, it will be much easier to push that. We do see castles by black. Bishop takes C5, pawn takes C5. We got knight up to D5, which looks actually very pleasing, because you are getting your knight further into black's position. But bishop to E6 kind of asks a question to the knight. You really don't necessarily want to leave this knight because after all the trades, you will be losing a pawn. So we do see knight going to E3, backing up. And taking back this bishop after we see bishop taking C4, knight taking C4. You see that your structure has not been compromised. You know, even though it's not losing, black definitely has a little bit of a worse, you know, pawn structure, but it's nothing to write home about. Well, we do see rook going over to E8, and then we do see the move A5, and this is the novelty of the game. You know, there's some logic behind it. You know, black is castled queenside. Of course, both sides are. And so where you kind of want to start gaining some space is going to be on that queen side. So you are just making an attempt to kind of slow down black's advances. Black actually doesn't care about any of that because they immediately go B5. And you kind of have a decision to make as white. You know, are you going to accept just the gain of space, or are you going to contest it some kind of way? But in doing so, you would be correcting black's pawn structure, and that is actually what Wesley so does. It is actually the best thing to do in this position. So we do see pawn taking B6, pawn taking B6, and now you see that black structure is fixed. And so we do see knight going to E3. This can be a juicy square, but also you are eyeing, which is very common in these types of openings, you know, with the E4, E5 situation, eyeing a square on an outpost on F5. So we do see the move B5, we got B3, and we have the move A5. And I mean, this actually looks pretty good, even though it's dead even, crazy even. You know, it does kind of look a little nice for these pawns to kind of be here. You guys saw in the thumbnail how everything is kind of far advanced. So you definitely have to be careful, you know, so that black doesn't just kind of steamroll you with these pawns. We do see the move C4, just an attempt to try to like stop black from gaining so much space. We do see knight down to B4. We do see the move knight to D5. Obviously, I mean, this is taking advantage of the fact that you have a backward pawn as white. So we do see knight to D5, knight B takes D5, C pawn takes D5, and then we do have knight back to D7. And one of the things about the position is the fact that you do actually have some lines open now against black's pawns. So black definitely has to tread pretty lightly because the, you know, advantage has slightly shifted into white's favor. So we do see rook to a2. White, like I said, is getting ready to try to start attacking black's far advanced pawns. So we do see rook to a7. We got queen up to d2. Queen goes to b6. And this is actually a really nice move. You will see a little bit later how this ends up being a very, very crucial move. Queen goes to c3. We see the move f6. We got h4. We got a rook e to a8. We see the move h5. So what you have actually seen Wesley So do from both sides of the board is try to fix black's pawns so that it can't liberate itself. And also you are wanting to redirect this knight like so to take advantage of that f5 square I was telling you guys about. We do see a4 because black is not going to just sit around and just do nothing. So we do see that move, and then we do see this idea with knight coming to h4. And we do see the move b4. And like I showed you guys in the thumbnail, I mean, black is actually kind of starting to get rolling a little bit with these pawns. After we see the move b4, we see queen to b2, and then the very aggressive c4. And like I showed you guys in the thumbnail, this, you know, these pawns are actually causing a little bit of a trouble, man. You know, we have the ability to maybe push a3 or c3 and just really just kind of stick a pawn in white's throat. And we are threatening to possibly open this a file. So, you know, you can see that there's a lot of dynamic play from the black side. We do see D taking c4, and then the knight comes down to c5. And this knight has went from a somewhat passive square to a very active square, and we are hitting a lot of weak points in white's position. So, you know, in this particular situation, you know, black is definitely favored. We do see pawn taking a4. Something has to give, man. Like, you can't just allow black to just continue to just roll their stuff forward, and it's not going to be looking pretty good for you. So we do see the move b3. Past pawns must be pushed. We see rook up to a3. We see rook taking a4, rook taking a4, rook taking a4. And like I said, I mean, you are, you know, black is kind of for choice in this situation. I mean, you have the queen behind this pawn, and you really are kind of in a situation where your knight is all the way over here, and you kind of have to blockade this pawn somehow, because if not, it's just going to push for a touchdown, and you definitely can't allow that. So we do see knight going to f5 in this position, and we have actually reached a point in the game that black actually has not quite a win, but they have a really, really nice move that they can play here. If you want to go ahead and pause the video and try to guess and see what that move is, go ahead and do so. Okay, cool. So basically, like I said to you guys before, you know, you do have this pass pawn if you're black. You got the queen behind it and everything. So what do you really need to be trying to focus on doing? It is pushing the pawn forward and causing a situation where you can probably trade pieces down and remove all obstacles from this b pawn. So how you start doing that, if you did guess this move, then you are gangster as far as middle games and end games are concerned, and pass pawns. It is actually rook to a2. When you play rook to a2, you are trying to force, you know, the blockade from being in front of that pawn. And so the queen really doesn't have a whole lot of good options. So you would probably see queen to b1. If you are in front of a passed pawn and you do need to retreat, generally you want to retreat in front of the pawn and not to the side. So we would probably see queen to b4. You would probably see d6. Queen would come to d2. Knight goes to e7 with check. King goes down to f7. Knight goes back down to f5, and then queen to c2. And this is actually absolutely forcing the situation. You really don't want to trade, but what this queen is now doing is it's blocking your sight of this pawn, and it is double attacking, and it is forcing the issue, and this pawn is really, really, really close. So this is absolutely what Ray Robson could have done. He actually did not see that in the game, and he just went straight for the material. After we see knight to f5, he actually just went rook takes c4. So definitely not a bad move at all. You know, you are getting some material and you are putting a lot of pressure, like I said before, on these pawns here. And you do have a passed pawn. So, I mean, black is definitely still doing great. You do see the move d6. We see king down to h7. Queen goes over to e2. You know, we have the idea of moving our rook in the way so that we can stop things from rolling. We do see rook taking e4, queen going up to f3. We see queen up to b7. Rook goes over to b1. I mean, you have to worry about this pawn, though, homie. So, I mean, you know, you can't lose sight of that. So we do see queen going over to d7. And then the knight goes to e7. And we do see queen to g4. some of you guys might be wondering, wait a minute, knight to e7, doesn't that just kind of drop the pawn? Like, I can just get more pawns, right? Actually, absolutely not. If you go queen takes d6, you see the bar. This is absolutely mating. And you do see queen to f5. The king goes up to h8. And then you do have somewhat of a back rank situation. Because of the placement of the knight, you do have a situation where queen is going to be going to g8 with mate. The only thing you can do is just throw the queen in the way, and that is all she wrote. So that is why we see the queen maintaining that important f5 square. We do see queen going over to c3. We see rook over to c4. Queen goes to a5. We see the pawn going down to b2. Now, this pawn is dangerously close. You see the bar is really favoring black. We do see queen coming back to d2. You absolutely have to protect this square. You have no other choice. We do see rook going to d4. And this allows a somewhat of an escape with queen to c2. And it is... so this is a position that Ray Robson actually gives Wesley So a really huge chance because he goes queen to e4, and this allows Wesley So to corral that passed pawn. This b pawn is absolutely much better than this d pawn for white. So this was a very crucial position that he got into. Going back to maintain the pressure and to set kind of somewhat of a trap, you actually had to go rook to d3. It might look kind of strange because you're like, why am I just giving away my knight? Well, there is a big trap in the position if you decide to go and capture this knight. You see the bar, and it is rook to d1 with check, and this ends the game on the spot. So that knight is actually not just free to take. So going back to what we saw in the game, we saw queen to e4, and then the queen was able to take d2, rook takes d6. And the position is actually monstrous for white. This is the most winning position that either player has had in the entire game. But Wesley So does have to find some really accurate moves. The first move that he absolutely has to find is queen to d8. You have to get on this back rank and threaten kind of the stuff that I was telling you guys before, because this knight is actually perfectly poised with this pawn as well. Definitely comes into the game. And so we do see a rook going up to d8, queen taking d8. So you do have to allow this check. So you have to have the foresight to basically say, hey, man, I'm going to go ahead and let that check happen. I'm not even tripping. And so we do see queen taking b1 with check, the king coming up to h2. And you absolutely have to go queen to b3 because, like I said, you are mating on this square. So you have to protect that mate. We do see queen going over to ca, seeing if we can grab some material as far as that knight is concerned. And also we are eyeing that f5 square again. The knight goes down to a4. Queen goes to f5 with check. We do see king up to h8. Queen goes to d7. And then we see the actual, like, one of the game-losing blunders. And it is knight to b2. And it does allow the knight to go down to g6. King goes to h7. And then we do see the knight going to f8 with check. And it is in this position that Ray Robson resigns. Now, some of you guys, I think probably, I mean, I'd say around half of you guys are probably looking like, well, it doesn't look like it's the end of the game, though. I mean, the queen is still taken care of, you know, that square that you were talking about. There's not really any back rank stuff, like as long as I keep my queen there, right? Well, actually, white has the ability to disrupt everything you have going on. So if we go further, the king would either go to g8 or it will go to h8. Those are the only two moves. After the king goes to literally either one of those squares, you actually have the move knight to e6. Now, I mean, everything that I just got done saying before, you know, maintaining the back rank, maintaining this diagonal, and especially this square is now completely null and void. The queen actually doesn't have any way now to protect that. And also one of the major issues is that you do have queen going to g7 with checkmate. And there is absolutely not a way for black to parry both of those threats. So it is actually suggested here that the queen sacrifice itself for this knight. And then obviously this is a completely won game. And this knight is way too far away to really affect anything from going on. So that is that game. So it's a really nice game. Ray Robson definitely had some stuff going on that queen side. But he did really kind of allow Wesley So to get back. And once Wesley So got his opportunity, he did not let it pass. So that is that game. I appreciate you guys very much for coming by. Maraming salamat aking makaibigan. Posa na nunod inga king my video. Mabuting pagbati. Ingat lagi to you guys, and I will see you guys next time.